The four dominant forms of thought. 1. Monarchic, single-minded focus. The monarchic individual has a preference for tasks, projects, and situations that allow complete focus on one thing or aspect at a time until it is complete. This individual is often driven, single-minded, and likes to finish one thing before moving on to the next. 2. Hierarchic, prioritizing multiple tasks. The hierarchic individual prefers tasks that allow the creation of a hierarchy of goals to fulfill. This person likes to do multiple things within a given time frame, but assigns differential priorities to each task. Hierarchic individuals adapt well in settings where it's necessary to set priorities and determine the importance of different tasks. 3. Oligarchic, balancing competing priorities. The oligarchic individual enjoys tasks that allow working with multiple goals or aspects that are equally important. However, they may struggle to prioritize between tasks of varying importance. This style is well suited for situations where competing demands are of roughly equal priority. 4. Anarchic, flexible and spontaneous approach. The anarchic individual prefers tasks and situations that allow for great flexibility of approach, often taking a spontaneous or asystematic approach to problem solving. This individual may find structured environments limiting and tends to approach tasks in a random, flexible order. Here are 10 multiple-choice questions designed for men and women aged 20 to 30, focusing on daily habits and conflict resolution, aligned with the four dominant forms of thought. Daily habits. 1. When you start your day, how do you plan your tasks? A. I focus on one main task and complete it before moving on to anything else. B. I prioritize my tasks based on their importance and tackle them in order. Archic. C. I try to handle multiple tasks at once, often finding it hard to choose which is most important. D. I go with the flow, doing tasks as they come to mind without a specific order. 2. How do you manage your to-do list for the week? A. I pick one task to focus on each day until it's done. B. I organize my tasks by priority and work through them accordingly. C. I try to work on several tasks simultaneously, often juggling between them. D. I prefer to be flexible, adjusting my tasks as new things come up. 3. When working on a personal project, what is your approach? A. I dedicate all my attention to one aspect of the project until it's perfect. B. I divide the project into parts and prioritize which to complete first. C. I work on different parts of the project at the same time, balancing them as needed. D. I jump between different parts of the project, working on what feels right at the moment. 4. How do you typically organize your workspace? I keep my workspace focused on one specific task or project. B. I arrange my workspace based on the priority of tasks I need to complete. C. I have multiple projects or tasks visible, making it easy to switch between them. D. My workspace is flexible, changing depending on what I'm working on at the time. 5. How do you usually decide what to do in your free time? A. I focus on one activity that I enjoy and stick with it until I'm done. B. I consider all the activities I want to do and choose the one that's most important to me. C. I try to fit in multiple activities, balancing them throughout my free time. I go with whatever feels right at the moment, often changing plans spontaneously. Conflict resolution. 6. When you have a disagreement with a friend, how do you handle it? A. I focus on resolving one key issue before addressing anything else. B. I prioritize the main issues and address them in order of importance. C. I try to address all concerns at once, finding it difficult to prioritize them. Oligarchic. D. I approach the disagreement flexibly, addressing issues as they arise. 7. How do you resolve conflicts at work? A. I concentrate on solving the most critical problem first before moving on to others. B. I list all issues and tackle them based on their urgency and impact. C. I address multiple issues simultaneously, often balancing different concerns. Oligarchic. D. I adapt my conflict resolution approach depending on how the situation evolves. 8. When dealing with a misunderstanding, what's your approach? A. I focus on clarifying the main point of contention first. B. I consider all the misunderstandings and decide which to address first based on their importance. C. I try to address all misunderstandings at once, balancing the need for clarity on each. Oligarchic. D. I address misunderstandings as they come up, adjusting my approach as needed. 9. How do you approach conflicts that involve multiple people? A. I try to resolve one person's issue at a time, giving it my full attention. B. I prioritize the conflicts based on their severity and address them in that order. C. I attempt to address everyone's concerns at once, balancing the needs of all parties. Oligarchic. D. I handle the conflicts in a flexible way, dealing with issues as they arise. 10. How do you manage conflicts that arise unexpectedly? I focus on resolving the most pressing issue first and ignore the rest until later. B. I quickly assess all the issues and decide which needs immediate attention. C. I try to address all issues simultaneously, managing them as best as I can. Oligarchic. D. I take a flexible approach, dealing with the conflicts in the order they present themselves. Here are 10 additional multiple-choice questions focused on handling relationships and conflict resolution, aligned with the 4 dominant forms of thought. Handling relationships. 1. When a friend expresses their concerns, how do you typically respond? A. I focus on addressing one key concern at a time, giving it my full attention. B. I listen to all their concerns and prioritize which to discuss first based on their importance. Hierarchic. C. I try to address all their concerns at once, balancing my responses. D. I respond to their concerns as they come up, without a set order. 2. How do you approach difficult conversations in a relationship? A. I focus on one main issue at a time to avoid overwhelming the conversation. B. I prepare by prioritizing the issues I need to discuss and address them accordingly. C. I bring up multiple issues at once, trying to address them all together. Oligarchic. D. I discuss issues as they arise, allowing the conversation to flow naturally. 3. When resolving a disagreement with a partner, how do you proceed? A. I tackle the most critical issue first and don't move on until it's resolved. B. I list out the issues and address them based on their significance to the relationship. C. I attempt to resolve all issues at once, balancing the discussion between them. D. I address issues as they come up, letting the conversation take its natural course. 4. How do you deal with emotional conflicts in a relationship? A. I focus on one emotional issue at a time to keep the situation manageable. B. I consider the emotional impact of all issues and decide which to address first. C. I try to navigate through all emotional issues at once, balancing the emotional load. Oligarchic. D. I allow emotions to be expressed as they arise, addressing them in the moment. 5. When trying to reconnect with someone after a disagreement, what's your approach? A. I focus on resolving the primary issue that caused the rift. B. I think through all the issues and start with the most important one. C. I address multiple points of contention simultaneously, trying to find balance. Oligarchic. D. I reconnect in a spontaneous way, addressing concerns as they come up. Conflict resolution. 6. How do you manage conflicts with a colleague at work? I concentrate on resolving the most significant issue first before moving on to others. B. I list all concerns and deal with them in order of priority. C. I try to handle all conflicts simultaneously, balancing the discussion between them. D. I resolve conflicts as they surface, adapting my approach to the situation. 7. When a misunderstanding occurs in a group project, how do you address it? A. I focus on clearing up the most critical misunderstanding before addressing others. B. I prioritize the misunderstandings and tackle them in order of their impact on the project. C. I work on resolving all misunderstandings together, trying to keep everything balanced. Oligarchic. D. I address misunderstandings as they are brought up, allowing flexibility in the discussion. 8. In a conflict with a family member, how do you approach resolution? I focus on one main issue at a time until it's resolved. B. I consider all issues and decide which is the most important to resolve first. C. I attempt to resolve all issues simultaneously, balancing the conversation. D. I handle issues as they arise, letting the discussion unfold naturally. 9. How do you approach conflicts that have been building up over time? A. I start by resolving the most pressing issue and then move on to the next. B. I assess all the conflicts and tackle them based on their urgency and impact. C. I try to address all underlying issues at once, managing the discussion as best as I can. D. I allow the conversation to cover issues as they come up, addressing them flexibly. 10. When you need to apologize for a mistake, how do you approach it? A. I focus on the most significant mistake first, ensuring it's fully resolved. B. I consider all mistakes and prioritize which to apologize for first. C. I apologize for all mistakes at once, trying to address everything simultaneously. I apologize as each issue is discussed, adapting based on the situation. Here are 10 additional multiple-choice questions focused on emotional connectivity and career choices, aligned with the 4 dominant forms of thought. Emotional connectivity. 1. How do you express your feelings to someone you care about? A. I focus on conveying one strong emotion at a time to ensure it's understood. Monarchic. I prioritize which feelings to express first, based on what I think is most important. C. I try to express all my feelings at once, balancing the emotional message. D. I express my emotions as they come to me, allowing the conversation to flow naturally. 2. When trying to comfort a friend, how do you usually approach it? A. I focus on addressing the most immediate emotional need first. B. I consider all the things that might be bothering them and choose the most important to address first. C. I try to provide comfort on all fronts, addressing multiple concerns at once. Oligarchic. D. I offer comfort as the conversation progresses, responding to their needs as they arise. 3. How do you maintain emotional connections with loved ones? A. I focus on one meaningful activity or conversation to deepen our connection. B. I prioritize the ways we connect, making sure the most important aspects are addressed first. C. I balance multiple ways of connecting, trying to maintain all aspects of the relationship. Oligarchic. D. I connect with them in a spontaneous manner, letting the connection evolve naturally. 4. When expressing affection, what is your usual method? A. I focus on one specific gesture or expression to show my affection. B. I choose the most appropriate way to express affection based on the situation. C. I use multiple gestures or expressions at once to convey my feelings. D. I express affection in a spontaneous and flexible way, depending on how I feel in the moment. Anarchic. 5. How do you handle feelings of jealousy in a relationship? A. I focus on the primary source of jealousy and address it directly. B. I consider all the factors contributing to the jealousy and prioritize which to address first. I try to deal with all aspects of the jealousy at once, balancing my approach. D. I address my feelings of jealousy as they arise, discussing them openly with my partner. Career choices. When choosing a career path, what is your main focus? A. I concentrate on one career that I'm passionate about and pursue it fully. B. I explore several career options and prioritize them based on my interests and goals. C. I consider multiple career paths at once, trying to keep my options open. D. I explore different careers as opportunities arise, adapting my plans as I go. 7. How do you approach career development? A. I focus on mastering one skill or area of expertise at a time. B. I prioritize which skills to develop first, based on their importance to my career goals. C. I try to develop multiple skills simultaneously, balancing my efforts across different areas. Oligarchic. D. I learn and develop skills as opportunities present themselves, without a strict plan. Anarchic. 8. When evaluating job offers, how do you decide? A. I focus on the job that aligns most closely with my primary career goal. B. I weigh the pros and cons of each offer and prioritize them based on what's most important to me. C. I try to consider all aspects of each job offer at once, balancing my decision-making process. Oligarchic. D. I consider the job offers as they come, making decisions based on how I feel at the time. 9. How do you handle career-related stress? A. I focus on resolving the most stressful issue first before addressing others. B. I identify all the stressors and tackle them based on their impact on my well-being. C. I try to manage all stressors at once, balancing my response to them. Oligarchic. D. I address stress as it arises, adapting my coping mechanisms as needed. 10. When planning your long-term career, how do you approach it? A. I concentrate on one long-term goal and work steadily towards it. Monarchic. B. I set multiple career goals and prioritize them based on their importance. C. I work on several long-term goals at once, balancing my efforts across them. D. I remain flexible in my long-term planning, allowing my career to evolve naturally.